This is a wanted poster that was distributed by anti-abortion forces targeting a doctor named David Gunn. It lists the color, the make, the model of the car that he drives, lists his exact license plate number. It lists the office address where he works. It describes Dr. Gunn physically. Quote, 45 to 50 years old with curly gray hair, approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs about 135 to 150 pounds. He walks with a noticeable limp. In other words, the poster is giving you everything you need to know to be able to find this guy. It then describes him as responsible for killing children at 2 specific addresses in Pensacola, Florida. After this wanted poster was distributed, Dr. David Gunn was shot and killed by an anti-abortion extremist. That was in March of 1993. You'll recognize the same basic idea behind this poster for Dr. George Wayne Patterson. It describes him as a white male, approximately 6 feet 1 inches tall and 185 to 200 pounds. Again, it lists the year, the make, and the model of his car. It gives his medical license numbers in both Florida and Alabama. This doctor, George Patterson, actually owned the clinic where Dr. Gunn had been murdered. Dr. Patterson himself was murdered 5 months after Dr. Gunn was killed. Dr. Patterson's killing is still unsolved. When the New York Times reported at the time on Dr. Patterson's killing, they got a comment from an activist named Paul Hill. Paul Hill said whether Dr. Patterson was killed by an anti-abortion advocate or just a thug, quote, the killing has stopped, and so it had the desired result. The desired result, the doctor's dead. Less than a year after giving that quote to the New York Times, Paul Hill himself shot and killed yet another doctor who provided abortions, a man named Dr. John Britton. Do you want to see the wanted posters that the movement put out for John Britton? Again, the wanted poster provides Dr. Britton's exact home address, his exact office address, a description of his vehicle, including his license plate number, also a physical description of him, approximately 6 foot 2 inches tall, 190 to 210 pounds, gray hair, race white, age 68. They show him in a bulletproof vest in case you want help on aiming, I suppose. On another version of the wanted poster for Dr. Britton, you actually see photos of his home, his office, and his car. This version of the poster lists what the extreme anti-abortion activists who distributed it called his crimes against humanity. Again, that doctor, John Britton, murdered by Paul Hill. These wanted posters were distributed, and then he was murdered by an anti-abortion extremist, too. Then, of course, there's Dr. George Tiller. Here's a wanted poster with Dr. Tiller's name and face on it. This was distributed before Dr. Tiller was shot the first time in 1993. Dr. Tiller worked in Wichita. You will see they have turned it in this poster into Auschwichita. Get it? It goes on alongside Dr. Tiller's picture. Quote, Mr. Tiller says he is a Christian. Caution. Adolf Hitler said, I am a servant of Jesus Christ. They describe one of the aliases here as Tiller the Killer. You may have heard that on Fox News and Bill O'Reilly's show in particular. Then the wanted poster gives the exact address of Dr. Tiller's office, which is actually where he was shot in 1993 after this poster was circulated. Where the wanted poster reads, an equal opportunity executioner. I honestly don't know whether the designers and distributors of this poster were referring to Dr. Tiller himself or describing themselves or the people they would like to execute him because they wanted to take matters into their own hands. This Dr. Tiller wanted poster went up before Dr. Tiller was shot in 1993. Dr. Tiller was not killed in that shooting. That didn't happen until last year. But this pattern of wanted posters going up, and then the doctors featured in the wanted posters getting shot or murdered. It's a well-established pattern in the extreme anti-abortion movement. And I kind of can't believe I'm telling you this right now, but it is happening again now. We have exclusively obtained 3 wanted posters from the Charlotte, North Carolina area. We have blurred the names and addresses of the doctors featured in these posters as well as their faces. 3 of the 4 doctors being targeted are pictured on their wanted posters. Just like in the early 90s when abortion doctors are being killed following the distribution of wanted posters, these new ones provide, in addition to color photos, the exact address of where these doctors practice. And in at least one case, the exact home address of the doctor in question. This is what's happening right now in North Carolina. This is the climate that these doctors are living in America. We're told by contacts working in North Carolina that these wanted posters first turned up very shortly after Dr. George Tiller was murdered last year. We have a documentary set to air on Monday night about Dr. Tiller's murder, about how it happened and why it happened. As we were finishing up making the documentary, we learned that a federal grand jury is now investigating whether there wasn't just one anti-abortion extremist acting alone in the murder of Dr. George Tiller, but whether the killing was connected to a broader case involving radical anti-abortion activists. In our continued reporting on this story, we have found that there is a lot of anxiety among abortion providers in America right now, because many of them believe that there is a network of anti-abortion extremists at work. And as long as that network, they believe, is supporting the murder of abortion doctors is not dismantled, as long as only the shooter himself is apprehended and identified, they feel that they are just waiting for another murder. We've got an exclusive First Time Ever Anywhere preview for you of a scene from our new documentary coming up in just a moment, plus the pre-action from the far edge of the anti-abortion movement in this country. They are very upset about it, even though they haven't seen it yet. That's next.